When I first heard about the Sandy Hook shooting, I was in complete shock, and I felt as though I was living the trauma with the victims. I couldn't help but put myself in the place of the teachers who were victims of that very unfortunate event. I thought of the children and the pure raw emotion they must have felt throughout the day. And I couldn't help but put myself in the place of those teachers and thought, you know, if I was in that position, what would I have done? Where would I hide my students? I thought of the lockdown procedures and how important it is for it to be addressed in schools with children from a young age. In terms of introducing safety procedures to students, it should be an ongoing conversation we have with our students and not done in isolation when there's a moment of crisis. That way they will feel reassured and they won't feel a sense of panic that, oh my goodness, something bad might happen, but rather reinforce the issue of, you know, not talking to strangers, being with adults at all times, seeking help from adults when they feel intimidated or any moment of danger. In terms of introducing the procedure to students, I think it is crucial, just like you would introduce a fire drill. So it's not by any means to instill a sense of fear, it's just a means of being proactive so there's not sheer and utter panic when a moment of danger does arise. I think personally it's a very delicate question because we are all human, and at any moment of crisis there are a lot of emotions that kind of go through our body. So as a teacher, your job is not only to educate your students but to also ensure their safety and to protect them, even if it means putting your own life on the line. So obviously going through lockdown procedures outlined by my school would be my #1 plan of action, and get students in a position within my classroom or whatever location I was in where they were safe. But that does not mean that, you know, we don't improvise based on the nature of the situation. If it meant barricading the doors, then we would barricade the doors. But again, it's to create a sense of not normalcy, but to calm the students as much as possible and to let them know that we are there to protect them and to kind of, you know, hush their fears a little bit as much as we can. Absolutely. I think in both scenarios you have a case of just making students aware of what to do when there is a potential moment of crisis, so that it's organized and children are put into safety as fast as possible. In terms of lockdown procedures, like I mentioned before, it is a heavy loaded term where it causes a lot of fear. Given the increasing rate of school shootings, you have that becoming more of a possibility than having a fire drill. So by no means do you want to make it a situation where students are fearful in their everyday lives, but you also want to make them aware should something happen what they should be done. So they should be mandatory procedures then within schools, and they should be made aware of how to go about doing. I would have to agree that yes, the topic of conversation in terms of lockdown procedures, fire drills, anything that may turn the safety or the naive way a child views their world upside down will cause a lot of discomfort. However, it is a potential reality that, you know, students are part of a family, a school, a community, and a bigger world. And within that world, there are people who do not always have their best intentions at heart. So it is important to make them aware of possible dangers and how to go about dealing with them. So yes, it will cause a sense of discomfort, but as teachers and staff members, being part of the school community, our job is to kind of minimize those fears and kind of desensitize them and make them aware of what they should do to kind of be proactive. In terms of minimizing the fatalities that happened at Sandy Hook, I don't think we can predict how many lost their lives or within that unfortunate event, just because you have someone who came into school knowing that he or she wanted to cause damage, and we don't know what they were thinking, what they came into the school with. So by ensuring that students know how to go about dealing with a lockdown procedure, it's making it so that they have somewhat of a fighting chance. Like I mentioned, they come into the school, they have a limited amount of time to cause as much danger as they can. So by having students aware of a lockdown procedure, you're kind of giving them a chance of everyone within the school fighting chance by following a lockdown procedure to ensure their safety as much as possible. I think within the confines of the school we need to have an open door frame of mind, which means that we have to have, yes, a focus on the way a student blossoms academically, but also take into account their emotional well-being. So that entails having trained on-site counselors to work in collaboration with staff. I think a person who wants to inflict harm upon another person stems from their initial decision to do so. Guns, knives, cars, they're just tools in which they inflict that sense of harm. So it wasn't the gun that pulled the trigger, a person pulled the trigger. It wasn't the car that caused the damage, it was a person's loss of control within the car that caused the damage. So it is people who unfortunately misuse such tools to inflict harm upon others.